In a world that often forgets the very heroes who once gave it meaning, there are moments when we must pause and remember those who never lost sight of who they were, and Bill Gaither was one of them. His voice carried warmth, his heart radiated kindness, and his legacy shaped far more than melodies or lyrics. It shaped lives. Bill wasn't just another musician on stage. He was a storyteller, a teacher, and a man whose faith and compassion resonated through every note he sang. So when the day came that he chose to quietly step away from the spotlight, it felt like much more than a simple farewell. It was the closing of a chapter, a gentle but profound turning of a page in gospel music history. The silence that followed his withdrawal was filled with uneasiness, leaving countless admirers uncertain and longing for the comforting presence that had been a constant source of reassurance in both their joyful and darkest hours. For decades, Bill Gaither had been more than a performer. He was a bridge that connected generations, blending music with faith, and weaving together joy and sorrow in ways only he could. His concerts were not just shows, they were spiritual gatherings where hope and humanity met. When he suddenly stepped away, it felt as though the heartbeat of gospel music had skipped. The community he had lovingly nurtured was shaken, having never truly imagined a time when Bill wouldn't stand at the center of it all. Yet even as the curtain fell, the melody did not end. Every note he ever sang, every life he ever touched, and every spark of faith he ever ignited continues to carry his spirit forward. For all that he gave the world, there is only one fitting response. Thank you, Bill. When the official announcement of his departure came, it was strikingly simple, almost too plain for someone of his stature. A brief statement confirmed what many feared but didn't want to believe. Bill Gaither was stepping away. There were no dramatic speeches, no grand farewell tours, no drawn-out explanations. He slipped out of the spotlight with the same humility that had defined his entire career. Yet the quietness of his decision made the impact even louder. The world felt his absence immediately. Friends who cherished him, fans who found solace in his songs, and fellow artists who saw him as their guiding light were all deeply moved. In an age where noise often drowns out sincerity, Bill's silence spoke volumes. It reminded everyone of just how monumental his presence truly was, not only as an artist, but as a pillar of strength, faith, and hope. The reactions that followed were raw and emotional. Artists who had shared stages with him recalled his gentle wisdom, the kind that didn't come through grand speeches, but through the way he lived his life. Fans poured out their hearts, sharing how his songs had comforted them in grief, strengthened them in faith, and helped them find courage in their darkest hours. Each story painted the same truth. Bill Gaither had given the world more than music. He'd given people something eternal, memories that heal, words that comfort, and faith that binds. His work had created spiritual connections so profound that they would endure far beyond his lifetime. As the world searched for answers behind his sudden exit, the real message slowly became clear. Maybe it wasn't about explanations at all. Perhaps Bill's decision was driven by health concerns, a desire to spend more time with family, or a deep need for rest after a lifetime of service. Maybe it was all of those things together, whatever the reason. What truly mattered was the lesson within, that even the strongest and most selfless souls must eventually pause when life calls for change. His departure wasn't a sign of weakness, but of wisdom and grace. It takes immense strength to know when to step back, especially when millions aren't ready to let you go. Looking back on his extraordinary career, it's impossible not to feel awe. From humble beginnings, Bill Gaither rose to become one of the most beloved figures in gospel music. Yet, through all the fame, awards, and accolades, he remained grounded and humble. The spotlight never defined him. His purpose was always deeper, to uplift spirits, nurture faith, and bring people closer to God through the universal language of song. His melodies became part of people's lives, playing softly at weddings, echoing through churches during Sunday worship, comforting mourners at funerals, and filling quiet homes with peace during prayer. But beneath his strong, smiling public image was a man who also carried personal burdens, who sometimes felt weary, and who bore the heavy responsibility of being a symbol of strength for so many others. In that light, Bill's decision to step away becomes even more meaningful. It was not retreat, it was renewal. It takes courage to listen to the quiet voice that says, "It's time to rest." His farewell message reflected that same wisdom and grace. He reminded everyone that gospel music was never about one person. The music, the message, and the faith behind it were meant to continue, carried by anyone willing to believe in its power. His final words were more than a goodbye. They were a blessing, symbolic passing of the torch to a new generation of believers and musicians, who would keep his spirit alive through their own voices. Today, the gospel music world feels different without Bill Gaither leading it, yet it remains vibrant and alive, nourished by the seeds he planted. His influence echoes in the harmonies of young artists just finding their way in the timeless hymns that still bring comfort, and in the countless hearts he touched with his unwavering message of hope, truth, and love. Though his departure brought sadness, it also inspired deep gratitude. For a precious time, the world was blessed to have Bill Gaither among its greatest lights. His life proves that true greatness isn't measured by how long you stay in the spotlight, but by how deeply your presence transforms the lives of others. Bill's music, his teachings, and his gentle spirit continue to live on, not just through recordings or memories, but in the faith of those he inspired. His legacy endures because he gave people something eternal, hope. In the end, his story is not one of loss, but of lasting purpose, a testament to a life lived with integrity, compassion, and unwavering belief. True legends, like Bill Gaither, are those who leave the world better, brighter, and more beautiful than they found it, not by seeking fame or recognition, but by freely giving love, kindness, and inspiration in every aspect of his life. This is how Bill Gaither built his legacy. Even after stepping away from the stage, his influence continues to echo through the world of gospel music. Every joyful note sung, every life touched by faith, and every heart lifted in hope carries forward the spirit of a man who gave so much of himself to others. That's why, even in absence, Bill Gaither will never truly be gone. For decades, he stood as the steady calm at the very heart of the gospel community, a man whose unwavering faith and powerful voice united people from all walks of life. His music was more than art. It was medicine for the soul, a source of healing, hope, and unity. Year after year, as new artists emerged, Bill remained a constant figure, the smiling, unstoppable presence who brought light wherever he went. His energy filled churches, concerts, and gospel festivals across the nation, creating an atmosphere of warmth and reassurance. So many it felt impossible to imagine a world without him. Yet, just like a sudden storm breaking through a clear blue sky, came the news no one was ready to hear. Bill Gaither's official team released a short but powerful statement announcing that he would no longer be making public appearances, performing concerts, or attending events. The message was brief, almost too brief, but its weight was immeasurable. No explanations were given, and none were truly needed. The few words spoken were enough to change everything. Fans read the announcement over and over again, hoping they had misunderstood. But as the truth sank in, hearts across the world grew heavy. Shock and disbelief spread quickly through the gospel community. Family that had always leaned on Bill's voice and leadership, the realization that he was stepping away left people struggling to process such a profound shift. In a world that often forgets its heroes, the moment reminded everyone of a man who had never forgotten them. They thought of his voice, his compassion, and the faith that carried his legacy for generations. Bill Gaither's sudden withdrawal wasn't just another artist retiring. It marked the end of an era. It was a quiet but powerful turning point in gospel music, one that left many feeling unsteady and deeply saddened. For decades, Bill had been a guiding light, dependable presence whose songs offered comfort during hard times and joy in moments of celebration. Through heartfelt lyrics and unshakable faith, he built a bridge that connected generations. Blending melody with message, joy with sorrow, his community had come to take that presence for granted, never imagining a time when he would not be at the center. His farewell came suddenly, shaking everyone to their core. Yet, like the final notes of a hymn that linger long after the music stops, his spirit continues to live on. When the announcement was released, it was almost too understated for the magnitude it carried. Just a few sentences confirmed what no one wanted to believe: Bill Gaither was leaving. And in true humility, he did so quietly, without drawing attention or seeking sympathy. His decision may have been silent, but its impact was thunderous. Friends, fellow artists, and devoted fans immediately felt the emptiness his absence left behind. In a world so often filled with noise, his quiet departure spoke volumes. It reminded everyone of how much his presence had truly meant. Bill had never been just an entertainer. He was a pillar of strength, a source of hope, and a symbol of faith. The flood of tributes that followed his announcement was overwhelming. Artists who had shared the stage with him wept as they recalled his lessons, not just through his words, but through his humble way of living. Fans wrote heartfelt messages, sharing how his songs carried them through heartbreak, offered peace during loss, and strengthened their faith in moments of darkness. Each story revealed the same truth. Bill Gaither didn't just make music, he created moments of healing and deep, spiritual connection that will outlast time itself. As the world searched for answers about his sudden decision, one thing became clear: sometimes explanations aren't necessary. Perhaps Bill stepped back to focus on family, maybe for health reasons. Or perhaps it was simply time to rest after a lifetime of tireless service. Whatever the reason, it mattered less than the message behind it. His decision was not an act of weakness, it was a powerful act of wisdom. It takes incredible courage to say goodbye, especially when the world isn't ready to let you go. Looking back on Bill's remarkable career, it's impossible not to be inspired by what he achieved. From modest beginnings, he rose to become one of the most influential and beloved figures in gospel music history. Yet fame never defined him. For Bill, the mission was always clear: to lift people's spirits, strengthen their faith, and bring communities together. And he succeeded beyond measure. His songs became part of people's lives, sung at church services, weddings, funerals, and quiet moments of prayer. Behind the public image, however, was a man who bore great responsibility. The constant expectation to be a source of encouragement surely weighed heavy on his heart. In that light, his choice to step back was not retreated, was renewal. It showed strength, humility, and the wisdom to know when to rest. Soon after, a final farewell message was released. In it, Bill reminded everyone that gospel music was never about one person, it was about the message, the faith, and the people who carried it forward. His words were more than a goodbye. They were a blessing, a benediction, a passing of the torch to the next generation. He urged everyone to keep believing, to keep hoping, and, most importantly, to keep loving. Though the gospel world feels quieter without him at its center, his influence is far from gone. His spirit still resonates in the voices of young musicians, in the hymns sung around the world, and in the hearts of those who found comfort through his music. Even as people mourn, they do so with gratitude for having known someone as extraordinary as Bill Gaither. His story is proof that true greatness lies not in fame, but in the legacy one leaves behind. Bill Gaither's music, his passion, and his teachings live on not only through recordings, but in the hearts of those who find comfort in his songs. His influence endures in every singer he inspired, in every congregation he uplifted, and in every soul he guided toward hope. This is not merely a story of loss, it is a celebration of a life lived with faith, generosity, and integrity. True legends are those who leave the world better than they found it. And Bill Gaither did exactly that, not by seeking recognition, but by giving selflessly. One song and one act of love at a time. Even though he has stepped away from the stage, his presence lingers in every joyful melody, every prayer lifted in faith, and every life forever changed by his music. That is why Bill Gaither will never truly be gone. For decades, he was more than a performer. He was the calm within the storm, a unifying force through music and faith. His energy, his kindness, and his devotion filled hearts across the world. And though the curtain may have fallen, the song of Bill Gaither continues to play, softly, eternally, and full of grace.